a really important thing to know about me. I come from Belgrade, Serbia, which is a very unique place in many aspects. So for us who grew up there, many circumstances in life were a little bit special or different than, let's say, the rest of Europe. So when I was growing up, when I was a teenager, that was in the 90s, and the country was actually in war, and it was under international sanctions. It was isolated, which meant like nothing can go out of the country, nothing can go in the country. So imagine discovering music under these conditions. It was a little bit different than what the people of my age at that time were doing, I guess, in France or in Germany or in Holland. But somehow we all wanted to be part of this big world, and we wanted to follow these trends. So we would find alternative ways how to discover music. There were several radio stations that were playing not only electronic music, but all sorts of alternative music. And there was a TV station which was illegally broadcasting MTV during the night. And that's how we were watching that, and that's how we would discover new music. And for those who remember MTV in the 90s, like the night program was actually the cool program. That's when they were playing electronics and all of that. So I would stay up. I wouldn't sleep. I would just watch this program, and that's how I discovered a lot of electronic music as well. For us at those times, I mean, I started going out really young, already at the age of 13 or something, with my uncle, who was much older. But he would take me out to clubs and parties. And the rave scene and the club scene and the house scene and the techno scene and trance was already happening in Serbia under these circumstances, where like the country is completely blocked, and somehow some people would find a way to become DJs, to find the records, to organize a rave, and to get like 3,000 people there. So yeah, actually during my high school I was going out, I was going to raves, and then I wouldn't sleep. I would just go straight back to straight to school. And if my uncle was not there, because he was living in Denmark at that time, I would just go out alone. Like at the age of 15, 16, I would just go to rave. I would stand in front of the monitor, dance for hours, go home, get my books, and go to school. So for me, that was the introduction. I never really intended to be a DJ. That was never my plan. I wanted to be a professor. I wanted to teach people either languages or philosophy. But I was going out, I was into music, all sorts of music, and then eventually at the age of 19 I got offered a job to become a music journalist for one of the independent TV stations in Belgrade. So I started creating my own music TV shows, which was similar to what I do now. It was also selecting music, just playing it on TV and not really mixing. So the audience was not right in front of me. It was more like an abstract audience. I would basically be in a room like this, completely alone, just with a camera in front of myself, and some guys in the in the directing room. They would play the tapes. It was the era of tapes. So yeah, I was selecting videos, and my TV shows were actually quite popular just for that reason, because I was playing a lot of weird electronic music that no one else was playing on TV, and no one expected something like that from a cute girl. So it was like a contrast where I was this innocent 19-year-old girl just starting to work on TV and then playing Otekre, like 10 minutes of noise straight on national TV. So yeah, my path to becoming a DJ was a bit also of an interesting one. So I was working for TV for many years, and along the way I also somehow became a performer. Actually, I met a producer from New York. His name is Abe Duque. He's actually like a legendary house and techno producer from New York. And when he played in Belgrade, he asked me if I would like to sing with him. I saw him for the first time, he saw me for the first time. I thought the guy was joking, but somehow during his live set, he started his live. It was in a grandiose, really beautiful venue in Belgrade. He told me, listen, there's this one mic here. I'm going to use one. The other one is for you. So if at any moment you feel like going out and just singing, do it. You can sing whatever you want. You can sing Madonna, sing whatever, like whatever your favorite song is. So I went out on stage and improvised, and he liked it, and his managers were there as well, and they liked it too. So they invited me to come to Berlin in a couple of months and record some tracks. I arrived to Berlin. In the meantime, I didn't see any of these people, and they're telling me, okay, so tomorrow morning you're going to Offenbach to Robert Johnson. It's a Groove Magazine birthday party, and you're playing with Ricardo Villalobos, Luciano, Magda, DJT, like all the biggest names. So we improvised again, and that went well. We had like a little incident on stage where where the power plug went on fire. So most of Abe's equipment was connected to this one power plug, and the mixer where my mic was connected was separately. It had separate power plug, so it was just my voice, like a cappella in like super packed club. I couldn't remember any lyrics in this world except for something in my own language. So I was singing like a pop song from the 80s in Serbian. Nobody could understand what I was singing, but obviously people liked it, and the editor of Groove really liked it. We got a big review, and then people started inviting us to tour together and to play together. So all of a sudden, like overnight, I had a career, and I didn't know what I was doing at all. But that was still a long time ago. That was 2005, and it was the era before all the social networks and YouTube. So what I did was I kept all my projects in Serbia, because I had several music TV projects, and that was like my job. And then on the weekends, I would travel with Abe, and nobody in Serbia knew about it. I was able to have like a parallel life in Europe, and then my regular life in Belgrade. So that's how I got introduced. I started also collecting records. I started my party nights around the same time, and everything somehow happened very coincidentally, not planned at all. I just said yes to everything, and then I learned along the way. So when I started this Monday night residency in this Belgrade club, it was with another friend of mine. We lived together, we were best friends, and she also worked on TV, also making music TV shows. So we were always wondering, like, why did we never think about like playing music, because we're interviewing DJs all the time, and we spend a lot of time at parties also for work, and we have so much music at home, which is most of the times better than what we listen in the club. Why did we never think of maybe becoming DJs? I guess it's because there were no other women there. You know, we couldn't see that it's possible. Like every time you go and see the DJ, it's always a man. So you cannot envision yourself even becoming that, because you don't see that image, you know. So we started, and somehow miraculously our parties were very popular since the start, although it was a Monday night. So basically I was learning how to mix in front of full clubs. I didn't have any equipment at home. I couldn't really afford it, and I couldn't afford it for some years. So I would always just practice at my own parties in front of the audience. So that was my past. That was my music past. But somehow, since the age of 12, 13, I was somehow already involved in the scene as a very young kid raver. And yeah, eventually at some point, the media situation in Serbia changed a lot. So it became very commercial, and I couldn't do what I was doing on TV. I couldn't play Otekra anymore. I had to make some sort of ethical, moral compromises. But I didn't want to do that, because I didn't want to be a presenter presenting something. I actually was creating all of my shows for over 10 years. So I just stopped doing that, and I had a kind of a personal crisis, actually like a total breakdown, and I realized two things. I should focus on DJing for one reason. First of all, that's one thing where everything depends only on me. So it's not like a big team or a TV station or a sponsor who is sponsoring my music show, or like cameraman, light guy, sound guy. It's just me. And whatever I do, I can see the result of what I do immediately in front of me. So if I'm an okay DJ, people will stay. They will stay longer. If I suck, they will just leave. And that was a sort of therapy for me. And then I really like this feeling. It was also kind of a meditation for my mind, because I had all these scattered thoughts, like a million thoughts going in this period of crisis. And then when I would DJ, I would just have to focus on this one thing, like what's the next record? How to make that record and this record sound like one. And that's everything I had to deal with. And yeah, around that time I realized, okay, I'm DJing for some years now. I'm DJing for like 7 years. Why wouldn't I just call it a profession and not a hobby? So I was like, okay, now I'm a DJ. I'm a professional DJ. I started looking for agents, and it took me a while to find like a good international agent. But since 4 years ago, I'm working with a good agency in Berlin, and I'm traveling around the world and sharing my experience in music, my taste in music, my knowledge in music. Yeah, a bit of a long story, but that would be my past. So I have to say my past of electronic music is way, way different than my present of electronic music. The present is much different. Right now, I don't think I would be able to hide my life like I was able some years ago. So everyone knows what I'm doing. Because we have Instagram, we have Facebook, we need to promote ourselves in order to get likes, in order to become known, which is kind of like, in a way, it has its effect on music in terms that people are looking for like faster satisfaction. And then a lot of people coming to the party or to a festival, they are not all of them are interested in music. Some of them just want to see like this person they know from social media, from Instagram or whatever. But on the other hand, I think it's like all these platforms are very good for people like me, for example, or anyone who's living in a country which is not well connected with the rest of the world, like a country which is not like an A-list or like the first league of countries. We all have the same internet. So if you're if you're really determined, you can just do your research and be even more determined and self-confident, and just reach out to the people you think you should be connected to, and you can easily get connected. So otherwise, like for example in Serbia, it's very hard to run a label. It's even hard to like be a DJ. Country is extremely poor. Like average salary is 200 euros or maybe 250 per month. So like imagine being a vinyl DJ there. It's not possible, you know. So you know, like the whole music industry basically does not exist. Everything is based on individual enthusiasm. So I think having platforms like the ones we have now, although they change the face of music scene a lot, they also helped some people a lot and gave them visibility that they would normally not get. So that's one thing about the present, which is different than the past, and for me as well. I mean, I think I already had some people who I knew from my journalist days in the music industry. So when I decided to just be a DJ, I was constantly just like posting and sending messages about my DJ life and nothing else. And somehow people started getting me seriously, and then I got a few offers for agents, and that's how I started touring internationally. A few people noticed me and they were like, oh yeah, there's a potential there, let's work. And it's really incredible. I've never imagined myself doing what I do now, but I'm just like traveling and playing. I had 100 gigs last year. It's insane. I've seen the whole world, like, and to imagine something like that as a kid in like 1996 was, it was impossible. It's quite incredible how much this scene or this business has grown. It's not really only a scene. It's not a culture anymore. It's definitely not subculture. It's really like business, you know. It's like a multi-billion euro business worldwide, and it's also an incredible thing because it started as a sort of a movement. Like all these music genres or all these music styles, they actually were expressing some sort of rebellion. Like when you look at the history of all this like club music, like disco was not only music, it was also like a social movement. Like they had some sort of fight going on there. They were fighting for something. And then like Detroit techno, the same thing. Like Berlin scene, the same thing. And then the acid house in UK actually happened in the worst period for UK ever, politically and economically. So like all these scenes and even like also music genres, they arose from the times of crisis somehow, when it was a kind of an escape for, not really an escape of people, it was like a parallel culture or a parallel reality. They were creating and some sort of like transformation they could go through with dancing and raving. And fast forward like 20 years later, it's like boom, it's like the mainstream, it's pop, it's like all these you know, like superstars, money, private jets, which is, I mean, I guess it's a natural way of things, but it's also a little bit like mind-blowing how everything developed, and how, like, if you're my age, you can witness sort of like history just unfolding in front of your eyes. Yeah, it's very hard to think about future, and I don't like to think about it too much, because if you think about future or you think you can know anything about future, it gives you a lot of anxiety. Because you can't know. I mean, there's so many things that happened unexpectedly. No one could ever tell that it would go that way. So if anyone would try to predict the future of this scene or anything in their lives, it would really just cause a lot of panic. So I think personally I'm just staying open, as I always was, for many different things. So wherever the scene goes, I will find my place. The good thing about the present and hopefully about the future is that there's so much good music. I mean, finally, music is not something, producing music, making music is not something that is class related. So people who are poor can also make music, which is always a good thing. And that also happened with the digital revolution. You know, before that you had to have like rich parents to buy expensive synthesizers, and now you don't have to, which means that everyone is able to express themselves, which is a good thing, so we can hear many different cultural influences.